The sky was burning. Alindra Velshar stood on the ancient walls of the last citadel and watched her world die. Massive warships hung in the orange clouds like dark metal insects. Every few minutes, another beam of energy would strike the ground somewhere in the distance. Another village gone, another 1,000 lives turned to ash. She was tired, so very tired. For 3 months, the Kethvari had been destroying everything her people had built over 10,000 years. The beautiful crystal towers of the capital city were now broken ruins. The sacred gardens where her grandmother had taught her to sing were craters filled with smoke. The great libraries, holding the wisdom of 100 generations, had burned for 6 days straight. The Silithani were not warriors. They had never been warriors. Her people were healers, teachers, diplomats. They solved problems with words and wisdom, not weapons. For centuries, this had been their greatest strength. Now it was the reason they were dying. "Commander," a soft voice said behind her. Alindra turned. Lieutenant Vela, her assistant, stood there with a tablet in her trembling hands. The young woman's silver skin had gone pale gray with fear. "What is it?" "The shield generators. They are failing. We have maybe 6 hours before they go completely dark." Alindra closed her eyes. 6 hours. That was all the time her people had left. The citadel held 40,000 refugees, mostly children, elderly, and the sick. The healthy adults had either fled on the few ships that escaped or had died trying to slow the Kethvari advance. Those who remained were the ones with nowhere else to go. "And the coalition forces?" Alindra asked. Vela's expression grew even more grim. 17 soldiers remained combat-ready. 8 Tuvalians, 5 Dreth, 1 Makari, and 3 humans. 17 soldiers against an army of 50,000 Kethvari. The numbers were almost funny. Almost. "The humans," Alindra said slowly. "Where are they?" "Sector 7. They have been reinforcing the eastern barricades." Alindra nodded. She had not spent much time with the humans. None of her people had. It was difficult to be near them. The Silithani were empaths. They could feel the emotions of other beings like most species felt temperature or heard sound. Most aliens had relatively calm emotional signatures. Peaceful minds that hummed quietly in the background. Humans were different. Human emotions were loud, chaotic, overwhelming. Standing near a human was like standing next to a bonfire of feelings. Joy, anger, fear, hope, sadness, love, all of it burning at full intensity all the time. It was exhausting. Many Silithani found it actually painful, so they had kept their distance from the human soldiers. Polite but cold. Professional, but never friendly. Alindra felt guilty about this now. These 3 humans had stayed to defend a people who had barely spoken to them. They would die here, far from their home, for strangers who found their presence uncomfortable. It was not fair. None of this was fair. "I will inspect the defenses," Alindra said. "All of them. Our people deserve to see their commander standing with them at the end." She walked through the citadel for the next 2 hours. She visited every barricade, every defensive position, every shelter filled with frightened families. She smiled when she did not feel like smiling. She spoke words of courage when she had no courage left. She touched hands and blessed children and pretended that everything would be fine. This was what leaders did. They lied beautifully so others could keep hoping. When she finally reached Sector 7, the sun was setting. The sky had turned from orange to deep purple, and the Kethvari ships were now black shapes against the dying light. The eastern barricades were different from the others, stronger, smarter. Someone had used broken building materials to create overlapping walls that would force attackers into narrow channels. Simple traps had been set using fallen debris. Escape routes had been marked with small stones. This was not Silithani work. Her people did not think this way. "Commander on deck," someone called out. Alindra found the humans near the main gate. 2 of them were young, a male and female, who looked barely out of training. They snapped to attention when they saw her. The 3rd human did not. He was older. Maybe 40 standard years. Though humans aged strangely, so it was hard to tell. His face was covered in small scars. His eyes were dark and tired and very, very calm. He sat on a piece of broken stone, cleaning a weapon with slow, careful movements. "Sergeant Marcus Cole," Vela whispered to her. "Senior surviving human soldier. 14 years of combat experience. His file says he has fought the Kethvari before." Ailindra approached him. This close, his emotional signature was almost blinding. But underneath the chaos, she sensed something unexpected. A deep stillness. A cold, patient weight, like a stone at the bottom of a river. "Sergeant Cole." He looked up. His eyes met hers, and she felt a flash of something: recognition? Interest? It was gone before she could identify it. "Commander Velshar." He stood slowly. "Nice barricades, right? Should buy us an extra hour when they breach the walls. You built these. Had to do something. Sitting around waiting to die gets boring." Ailindra studied him. Most beings facing certain death showed fear, despair, or forced bravery. This human showed none of those things. What she sensed from him was almost peaceful. He wanted to be here. He wanted to fight this hopeless battle. And somewhere deep inside him, in a place he kept carefully hidden, he wanted to die. Before she could respond, the sky lit up with new fire. A massive hologram appeared above the citadel. The image of a Kethvari war prince. 8 feet of gleaming black chitin and blade arms. "Defenders of Valthros," the war prince announced, his voice echoing across the ruins. "I am Sithrak, prince of the 19th Swarm. I give you one chance. Surrender the matriarch's daughter to me, and the rest of you will live as servants of the Kethvari Empire. Refuse, and when the sun rises, nothing will remain but ash and bone. You have until dawn to decide." The hologram vanished. Every eye in the sector turned to Ailindra. She was the matriarch's daughter. She was what they wanted. The silence stretched. Then Sergeant Cole spoke. "Commander, I have an idea." He paused. "You are not going to like it." The War Council gathered in the Temple of Communion. It was the oldest building in the citadel. The walls were made of crystal that had grown naturally over thousands of years. In better times, this place glowed with soft light, and the air hummed with peaceful energy. Now the crystals were dim and cracked. The peace was gone. 12 Silithani elders sat in a circle. Military officers, spiritual leaders, and the few remaining diplomats. Ailindra stood among them. And in the center of the circle, looking completely out of place, stood Sergeant Marcus Cole. "Absolutely not," Elder Therian said. His voice was sharp with anger. "This is madness." "With respect, Elder," Marcus replied calmly, "everything about this situation is madness. I am simply offering a different kind." Ailindra watched him carefully. Since his announcement at the barricades, she had been trying to understand this human. His plan was insane. But the way he presented it was so calm, so logical, that it almost sounded reasonable. "Almost. Explain it again," she said, "for those who still do not understand." Marcus nodded. "There is an old law. Ancient. It exists in almost every spacefaring culture, including the Kethvari. It is called the right of singular combat. We know of this law," Elder Therian interrupted. "A champion can challenge an enemy commander to single combat. If the champion wins, the enemy must withdraw for one full cycle. But this law has not been used in centuries. Because it has requirements," Marcus continued. "The challenger must offer something of equivalent worth to what is being fought over." He looked at Ailindra. "The Kethvari want the matriarch's daughter, the heir to your entire civilization. What could I possibly offer that matches that value?" The elders exchanged confused looks. This was the part that made no sense. "What are you offering, human?" asked Elder Malus, an ancient woman with kind eyes. Marcus was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was different, softer. "I am what your people call a resonant." The room went completely silent. Ailindra felt her heart stop. Resonants were rare. Incredibly rare. They were beings from non-empathic species whose minds could connect with Scifi neural pathways. 1 in a billion. Maybe less. That is impossible, Therian said. Humans cannot be resonance. Their minds are too chaotic. And yet. Marcus tapped his temple. I was tested 8 years ago. Your people confirmed it. The connection is imperfect, unstable, but it exists. Alindra stepped forward. What does this have to do with your sacrifice? Marcus met her eyes. There was no fear in them, only tired acceptance. If I die while connected to your temple's amplifiers, my life force will channel through the crystal network. The energy release would create a psychic barrier around this entire region. It would last for months, long enough for your people to evacuate, long enough to save everyone. The elders began talking all at once. Some were horrified. Some were calculating. Some simply could not believe what they were hearing. You are offering your death, Alindra said slowly. Your actual death. As the sacrifice. My death connected to your most sacred technology, Marcus corrected. To the Kethvari, this is an enormous insult. A human permanently bonding with Silithani spiritual systems. They will see it as contamination of a conquered prize. According to their twisted logic, that makes it equivalent to capturing you. This is suicide, Therian spat, dressed in noble clothing. Maybe. Marcus shrugged. But it is also the only strategy that gives your people a chance. Alindra walked toward him. The closer she got, the more she could feel his emotions. They were still loud, still chaotic. But now she could see the patterns within the chaos. Pain, old, deep pain that never healed. Guilt, a weight so heavy it had crushed something inside him. And beneath it all, a desperate, hungry need. Not for glory, not for honor, for ending. Why? She asked softly. Why do you want this so badly? The question hung in the air. Marcus did not answer immediately. His jaw tightened. His hands, she noticed, were trembling slightly. 3 years ago, he finally said, the Kethvari raided a colony called New Haven. It was a small place. Farmers, mostly. Families. He paused. Swallowed. My daughter was 7 years old. Her name was Elena. She had my eyes and her mother's smile. She wanted to be a pilot when she grew up. Alindra felt his grief hit her like a physical force. It was enormous. Bottomless. A wound that would never close. The Kethvari do not take prisoners from raids, Marcus continued. They take trophies. I found what was left of my family 3 days later. No one spoke. Even Elder Therian had gone pale. Since then, I have been looking for a death that means something. A death that hurts them. A death that saves someone else's daughter. He looked at Alindra. This is that death. Please, let me have it. Alindra's eyes were wet. She understood now. This was not courage. This was not sacrifice. This was a broken man, searching for peace in the only way he knew how. And the terrible truth was that his plan could work. I cannot allow this, she whispered. You cannot stop it, he replied. I have already sent the challenge. War Prince Sithrak has accepted. The combat happens at dawn. Angry shouts erupted from the elders. Marcus ignored them. He kept his eyes on Alindra. I am sorry, he said. I did not ask permission because I knew you would say no. And your people are too good to let a stranger die for them without trying to stop him. Alindra wanted to scream at him. She wanted to shake him, to make him understand that his life had value, that his pain did not have to end this way. Instead, she heard herself say something unexpected. The right allows a second, a witness who stands with the champion. If the champion falls, the second shares his fate. She straightened her spine. I will be your second. Now it was Marcus who looked shocked. Commander, no. If I lose, you die too. Then do not lose. Sergeant Cole, she turned to the stunned elders. This council is dismissed. Prepare the evacuation ships. If this human is willing to give everything for our people, the least we can do is make sure his sacrifice is not wasted. She walked toward the temple doors. At the threshold, she stopped. "Sergeant, get some sleep. Tomorrow you fight a monster." Marcus watched her go. For the first time in 3 years, something other than pain flickered in his chest. He did not have a word for it yet, but it felt dangerously like hope. They built the arena from the ruins of Silithani homes. This was deliberate. The Kethvari wanted to insult the defenders one final time. They used broken crystal from sacred buildings. They used stones from children's schools. They used metal from hospitals where healers had worked for generations. And they made the Silithani watch them do it. Marcus stood at the edge of the citadel walls and observed the construction. Thousands of Kethvari soldiers worked through the night. Their movements were fast and precise, like insects building a hive. By dawn, the arena was complete. It was a circle of debris, maybe 50 meters wide. The walls were jagged and sharp. The ground was covered in ash. Around the circle, the Kethvari army gathered. 50,000 soldiers, their black chitin gleaming in the early morning light. Their mandibles clicked with excitement. They had come to watch a human die. "It is time." Marcus turned. Alindra stood behind him, dressed in simple white robes, the traditional clothing of a second. Her silver skin seemed to glow in the pale light. Her eyes were calm, but he could see fear hiding beneath the surface. "You do not have to do this," he said. "Being my second, if I fall, you die too. Your people need you." "My people need hope," she replied. "They need to see their commander standing beside a human who fights for them. Whatever happens today, they will remember that we did not hide. We did not surrender. We stood." Marcus nodded slowly. He understood. This was not about survival anymore. It was about meaning. "Then let us go give them something to remember." They walked together through the citadel gates. The path to the arena was lined with Kethvari soldiers on both sides. They hissed and clicked as Marcus passed. Some spat on the ground. Others made gestures that probably meant death in their culture. Marcus ignored them all. As they walked, something strange happened. Alindra felt a connection forming between them. It was faint at first, like a whisper at the edge of hearing. But with each step, it grew stronger. The resonant bond. It was activating. Suddenly she could feel what Marcus was feeling. Fear. Yes. But controlled. Packed tight like a coiled spring. Pain. Still present. Still enormous. But focused now. Aimed like a weapon. And something else. Something she had not expected. He was thinking about her. Not romantic thoughts. Nothing so simple. He was thinking about how brave she was. How she had chosen to stand with him when she could have stayed safe. How her people were lucky to have a leader like her. He was thinking that if he had to die for someone, he was glad it was her. Alindra stumbled slightly. Marcus caught her arm. "Are you all right?" "The bond," she whispered. "I can feel you. Your thoughts. Your emotions." His expression flickered. "I am sorry. I know human minds are unpleasant for your kind." "No," she shook her head. "It is not unpleasant. It is just very loud. Very bright." She paused. "Very beautiful." In a strange way, before he could respond, they reached the arena. War Prince Sithrak was already waiting. He was enormous, 8 feet tall, covered in gleaming black armor that was actually part of his body. 4 arms, 2 ending in massive blade claws, 2 ending in smaller gripping hands. His head was angular, with compound eyes that reflected the light like dark mirrors. His mandibles were stained with old blood. He had killed hundreds, maybe thousands. Warriors from a dozen species had fallen before him, and now he looked at Marcus like a child looking at a new toy. "The human," Sithrak said. His voice was deep and rough, like stones grinding together. "I expected something more impressive." Marcus stepped into the arena. He wore simple armor scavenged from fallen soldiers. He carried a single blade. Human steel. Nothing special. Compared to Sithrak, he looked small, fragile, completely outmatched. "Sorry to disappoint," Marcus replied. Sithrak laughed. The sound was horrible. I will make this slow, little creature. I want your Silithani audience to see every moment of your suffering. I want them to understand what happens to those who resist the swarm. Marcus said nothing. He was studying his enemy, watching how Sithrak moved, how he balanced his weight, how his blade arms twitched when he spoke, learning. Alindra took her position in the second circle, a small marked area at the edge of the arena. From here, she would witness everything. And through their bond, she would feel everything. A Kethvari elder stepped forward and spoke the ritual words. The ancient law was invoked. The terms were set. If Marcus won, the Kethvari would withdraw for one full cycle. If Marcus lost, the citadel would fall immediately. Begin, the elder announced. Sithrak attacked instantly. He was fast. Impossibly fast for something so large. His blade arms cut through the air with a sound like screaming metal. Marcus barely dodged the first strike. The second caught his shoulder, slicing through armor and flesh. First blood. The Kethvari army cheered. Their clicking mandibles created a sound like a million bones breaking. Marcus rolled away, bleeding. Sithrak followed, pressing the attack. More strikes. More cuts. Within minutes, Marcus was wounded in 6 different places. His blood stained the ash beneath his feet. Through their bond, Alindra felt his pain. It was sharp and hot and terrible. But beneath the pain, she felt something else. Focus. He was not trying to win. Not yet. He was taking hits deliberately, learning the rhythm of Sithrak's attacks, mapping his patterns, finding his weaknesses. This was how humans fought. They did not overpower their enemies. They studied them. They adapted. They turned every wound into information. Sithrak slammed Marcus to the ground. One massive foot pressed down on his chest. A blade arm rose for the killing strike. Any last words, human? Marcus looked up at the monster above him. Blood ran down his face. His arm was broken. His body was failing. And he smiled. Through their bond, Alindra felt something shift inside him. The spring uncoiled. The weapon fired. Thanks for the lesson, Marcus whispered. Then he moved. What happened next lasted only 3 minutes. But those 3 minutes would be remembered for centuries. Marcus moved like something reborn. One moment he was broken on the ground. The next moment he was not. His good hand grabbed a fistful of ash and threw it directly into Sithrak's compound eyes. The war prince screamed. He stumbled backward, clawing at his face. His blade arms swung wildly, cutting nothing but air. Marcus was already moving. He rolled between Sithrak's legs and came up behind him. His broken arm hung useless at his side, but his other arm still worked. And in that hand was his blade. He did not aim for the obvious targets. Not the head, not the chest. Those were protected by thick, chitin armor. Instead, Marcus targeted the joints. The soft places where the armor plates connected, the back of the knee. His blade sank in 3 inches. Sithrak roared and spun around, but he was limping now, slower. Through their bond, Alindra experienced everything Marcus was feeling. It was overwhelming, terrifying, beautiful. His mind was not like anything she had ever touched before. Most beings thought in words, in images, in logical sequences. Marcus was not thinking at all. Not in the normal sense. His consciousness had become something else entirely. Pure reaction, pure instinct. Thousands of years of human evolution compressed into a single burning point. He was a predator. Ancient and primal. The same creature that had hunted mammoths with sticks, that had survived ice ages through sheer, stubborn refusal to die, that had crawled out of the mud and reached for the stars because nothing in the universe could convince humans to stay down. Sithrak attacked again. 4 arms moving in deadly patterns that had killed warriors from a dozen species. Marcus did not try to block. He did not try to match strength with strength. Instead, he simply was not where the attacks landed. Duck, slide, roll, step. Every movement was small, efficient. Nothing wasted. He flowed around Sithrak's attacks like water flowing around stones. and every time he moved, his blade found flesh. The ankle joint, the elbow, the gap beneath the shoulder plate. Small wounds. Individually, none of them were fatal. But together, they were adding up. Sithrak was bleeding now. Green blood dripped onto the ash. His movements were becoming slower, clumsier. Rage was replacing discipline. "Stand still!" the war prince screamed. "Fight me properly." Marcus did not answer. He did not waste breath on words. He simply kept moving, kept cutting, kept surviving. Alindra watched from the second circle, tears streaming down her face. Through their bond, she understood something that no Silithani had ever understood before. Humans were not strong. Compared to most galactic species, they were fragile, soft, easily broken. But they had something else. Something that could not be measured or quantified. They refused. They refused to accept defeat. They refused to accept impossible odds. They refused to lie down and die simply because logic said they should. Every other species in the galaxy had survival instincts that told them when to run, when to submit, when to accept that the fight was lost. Humans had something different. Humans had the ability to look at certain death and say no. Not today. Not ever. It was madness. It was magnificent. Sithrak lunged forward with all four arms. It was a desperate attack, uncontrolled, exactly what Marcus had been waiting for. He stepped inside the attack instead of away from it. Sithrak's blade arms passed on either side of him, missing by inches. And suddenly, Marcus was chest to chest with the monster, too close for the long blade arms to reach. Marcus looked up into Sithrak's compound eyes. "My turn," he said. His blade came up in a short, vicious arc. It found the gap between Sithrak's chest plate and shoulder armor. It sank deep into the muscle that controlled the war prince's primary blade arm. Sithrak screamed. His right blade arm went limp. Marcus twisted the blade and pulled it free. Blood sprayed across his face. He did not flinch. The war prince tried to retreat. Marcus followed. Another strike. Another joint disabled. Sithrak's left leg collapsed beneath him. The monster fell to his knees. The Kethvari army had gone completely silent. 50,000 soldiers watched in disbelief as their champion, their undefeated war prince, knelt bleeding in the ash before a single human. Marcus stood over his enemy. His body was broken. He had lost so much blood that he should not have been standing. But he was standing. Because he refused to fall. He raised his blade for the killing strike, and stopped. "Your prince lives," Marcus announced. His voice was raw and rough, but it carried across the silent arena. "Take him and leave this world. Not because I am merciful. I am not. But because I want you to remember this day." He turned slowly, looking at the assembled army. Meeting their eyes, one by one. "I want you to go back to your worlds and tell everyone what happened here. Tell them that a single human defeated your greatest warrior. Tell them that we do not surrender. We do not submit. We do not stop." He pointed his bloody blade at the army. "And tell them this. If you ever come back here, if you ever threaten these people again, I will not stop at one. I will make a mountain of your dead so high that your children's children will tell stories about it. This I promise you." The silence stretched. Then, slowly, the Kethvari began to move. They lifted their broken prince. They gathered their forces. They retreated. It was over. Marcus watched them go. The blade fell from his fingers. His legs stopped working. The world turned gray around the edges. Alindra caught him before he hit the ground. "Marcus, stay with me." She could feel him through their bond, feel his life slipping away like sand through fingers. His heart was stuttering. His body was failing. He looked up at her and smiled. A real smile. Perhaps the first real smile in 3 years. "Did we win?" he whispered. Yes, we won." "Good." His eyes began to close. "That is good." "No," Alindra screamed. "You do not get to die. Not after this. Not after everything." But his heart had stopped. And the sacrifice had only just begun. Marcus was dying. No, Marcus was dead. Alindra felt the moment his heart stopped. Through their bond, she experienced his consciousness flickering like a candle in strong wind. One moment he was there. The next moment, darkness. No, she whispered. No. She pressed her hands against his chest. His blood soaked through her white robes. Around her, Scifi healers rushed forward, but she could see the truth in their eyes. It was too late. His body was too broken. Too much blood lost. Too much damage. Human medicine could not save him. Scifi medicine could not save him. But maybe something else could. Bring him to the temple, Alindra commanded. Now. Commander, one healer said gently. He is gone. There is nothing. He is not gone. Alindra's voice was fierce. I can still feel him. The bond is still there. His body has stopped, but his spirit has not left. Not yet. Bring him to the temple. That is an order. They carried Marcus through the citadel gates. The refugees lined the streets, watching in silence. Many were crying. They had seen what this human had done for them. They had watched him defeat a monster, and now they watched him being carried like a broken doll. Children threw flowers in his path. Old women whispered prayers. Warriors who had never spoken to Marcus saluted as he passed. He had saved them all, and they could do nothing to save him. The Temple of Communion still stood. Its ancient crystals were dim but not dead. This place had been the spiritual heart of the Scifi people for 10,000 years. It had witnessed births and deaths, weddings and funerals, moments of great joy and great sorrow. Now it would witness something that had never been attempted before. They laid Marcus on the central altar. The great crystal above him pulsed with faint light. Through their bond, Alindra could feel him drifting, fading, moving towards something she could not see. Commander, Elder Thyrion said. He had followed them into the temple. His voice was soft now, no longer angry. What are you planning? The communion of flame. Thyrion's face went pale. That ritual has not been performed in 300 years. It requires multiple empaths to sacrifice portions of their own life force. Years of their lives. Freely given. And even then, success is not guaranteed. I know. And you would do this for an outsider? A human? Alindra turned to face him. Her eyes were burning with something beyond grief, beyond determination. Something that looked almost like faith. He walked into certain death for people who never accepted him. He gave everything for strangers who found his presence uncomfortable. He asked for nothing in return except the chance to make his death mean something. She looked at Marcus's still face. If we cannot match even a fraction of that courage, we do not deserve to survive. Tyrion was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, he nodded. What do you need? Healers. As many as will volunteer. No one will be forced. This must be freely given, or it will not work. The call went out through the citadel. Alindra expected maybe 5 or 6 volunteers. People who had worked with the coalition soldiers. People who understood what Marcus had done. 47 healers answered the call. They came from every corner of the citadel. Young and old. Strong and weak. Some had lost everything to the Kethvari. Some had barely escaped death themselves. But they came. We saw him fight, one young healer said. We felt his spirit through the empathic networks. He was in such pain, such grief, but he did not let it stop him. He used it. He turned his broken heart into a weapon that saved us all. He deserves a chance, another said. Everyone deserves a chance. They formed a circle around the altar. 47 Silithani. Their hands joined, their minds open. Alindra stood at the center, her hands on Marcus's chest, directly over his silent heart. This will cost us, she warned them, years of our lives. We will age faster, die sooner. There is no taking this back. We know, they said together. Then let us begin. The ritual started slowly. A humming sound filled the temple. The crystals began to glow brighter. Energy flowed through the circle like water through rivers. Aelindra directed it into Marcus, into the bond they shared. She found him in the darkness. He was standing at the edge of something vast, a great emptiness that called to him with promises of peace, of rest, of reunion with those he had lost. She saw them waiting for him, a woman with kind eyes, a little girl with his smile, Elena, his daughter. Marcus was walking toward them. Each step took him further from life, further from pain, closer to the peace he had sought for 3 years. Marcus. He stopped, turned, saw her. Aelindra? His voice was confused. What are you doing here? Coming to bring you back. Back? He shook his head. There is nothing to go back to. My body is broken. My fight is done. I won. It is time to rest. Your fight is not done. She moved toward him. We still need you. I still need you. Why? I am just a broken soldier. My only value was my death. Aelindra reached him. She took his hands. Through their bond, she showed him everything. The healers sacrificing years of their lives. The refugees praying for him. The children asking if the brave human would wake up. You are not just a death, she said. You are a symbol. A bridge. You showed my people that humans are not chaos to be avoided. You are fire to be embraced. Bright and warm and beautiful. Tears ran down his face. I do not know how to live anymore. I only know how to fight. How to die. Then let us teach you. She squeezed his hands. Come back, Marcus. Come back and live. Not for duty. Not for sacrifice. For yourself. You have earned that much. He looked back at his family one last time. Elena smiled at him. She waved goodbye. Go, Daddy, she whispered. I will wait. Marcus turned back to Aelindra. He took her hand, and chose to live. He woke 3 days later. Sunlight streamed through the temple windows. His body ached, but it was working, healing, alive. Aelindra sat beside him, holding his hand. She looked older, tired, but she was smiling. Welcome back, she said. You saved me. His voice was rough. All of you. Why? Because you reminded us what was worth saving. She touched his face gently. And because some humans are worth keeping around. Epilogue. 1 year later. The memorial stood in the center of New Velthros. It was a statue of a human warrior, battered and bloody, standing before a monster. The human was smiling. Below it, words were carved in both Silithani and human standard. They are small. They are fragile. They are chaos given form. And they will die for strangers. Fear them. Love them. Learn from them. Marcus stood before the memorial, Aelindra at his side. Behind them, human and Silithani soldiers trained together. The first joint defense force in galactic history. Not bad, Marcus said, though they made me look too heroic. You are heroic. I am tired. But he was smiling. Still, it is a good tired, the kind you earn. She took his hand. Ready for tomorrow? The new recruits arrive at dawn. Ready. He looked at the sky where Kethvari ships had once burned. Now, there was only blue. Only peace. For the first time in years, I am ready for tomorrow. The end.